Okay, this seems like a strange heading. That's because I didn't really prepare this for you. I prepared it for my last BNI meeting, and so because I just happened to be the presenter that week. So let me just start talking about my background, which is largely as a manager and leader. And I spent a long time, leading lots of different teams, mainly in government settings. But in those government settings, I got to do a whole range of different things. I was a property manager at one point. I led the training and staff development teams, looking after leadership training systems, training, youth traineeship training, those types of environments. Led a whole series of government-initiated change into government offices all around Australia. Managed fraud, compliance, debt recovery, those sorts of activities. Did all sorts of project roles, including the early phases of digitisation and the trials that we went through to find out what worked and what didn't work in a government context to be able to build the capability for the future. Emergency management. When there was a flood in Queensland in 2017, I was moved across to the state government to go and head up the payments team from the Queensland Premier's Disaster Relief Appeal and set up a payment process to enable people to get paid in that way. And my last job before leading government was I was looking after industrial relations and change management in a change process in about 20 sites across Australia. So lots and lots of leadership experience, and that also meant on occasions working with a lot of consultants, some very good, not so good. And so I learned what good consulting was all about, and what it wasn't really about. So since 2012, so I've been executive business coach, corporate educator, Australian clients, international clients, not so much by design, just a matter of sort of what flowed to me, I suppose, to a large extent. And so coaching, mentoring, I've actually got far more mentoring experience and coaching experience because that's the practicality of, what I did for 30 years. Do a lot of leadership training still in various organisations. Social and emotional intelligence, social science is my core skill set, behavioural science, so social emotional intelligence, conversational intelligence, and the science of behaviour generally, usually using multiple tools to be able to work through those things. Now, recently, Lead Engine Consulting was nominated by Manage HR magazine, listing of 20 companies in APAC, dealing with either training and development and customer challenges and the like in that sort of process. And just recently, CXO Outlook had me listed as well. I got no idea where these magazines came from. They just turned up in the last, few weeks. I'd never heard of them until, well, actually not last few weeks, I suppose. October was when they first approached me. I hadn't really heard of them until that time. And interestingly, on this one here, I'm featured on the cover, and Novak Djokovic is on the back page. So I still can't make the sports section. So he takes that all over himself. So I then use that presentation then to talk about people and how they might prepare for the year ahead. And I won't go through those types of things necessarily with you, but I talked about a range of things that should be part of their thinking and part of their process. gave them a couple of things, like a couple of tips, like really accelerate the inevitable. If you know it's going to happen, well, get behind it, lead it, plan it. Both lead the process and follow yourself, follow your own guidelines, follow your own judgments about what's important. And these are the things that I've identified as useful referrals for me, like training organisations. I've been employed over the years by a number of training organisations who they wanted to run a program and didn't have the practical leadership expertise within their stable of whoever they used to use, and so they bring me in for those processes. One client I've got at the moment, he's got me programmed for a whole stack of stuff next year as well, and this is dealing with government agencies, and so they're the leaders and senior leaders in government agencies in Australia, and what they were looking for there was somebody who had that practical experience in leading those agencies as well. So I could share experiences about what I've been through and what the challenges are in leadership and a practical insight. And that's one of the things that's probably mostly different from me. I don't know anyone else who's an established leadership trainer who's got more life in leadership than I have is in training. And while I say that, almost in every one of the last 4 decades, I've had a life in training. Like I've always been pulled in to do some training for some groups. So some COTA training in years gone by, leading bold change. I was accredited to run COVI programs and ran those sort of things internally as well. So the practical experience as well as the leadership experience, as well as the training experience. Exit and succession is something that I do a fair bit of. And you might as well group growth, exit and succession in the same sort of breath, because if you set out to do an exit and succession program, and I've got a couple of clients like that at the moment, the first stage is always almost identical to the growth phase, because always you're looking at what's the best position that you can create for that business to set it up to change hands, whether it be a sale or whether it be to pass down the family food chain. Building a power base, it's something most people do not understand, the importance of how you build relationships that enable you to get results. I don't have a lot of what would you say, lead generation systems and those sorts of things in place. I get work from people I know. And so you have that established relationship on there. In fact, I'm just about to go and do, for the first time, some digital marketing to be able to advertise myself for the coming year. But I don't usually do that. The sort of things I get involved in are like conversations about with people, about people, how leaders think, how they say what they do, the danger in what they can say, the power of words, the power of distracting people from purpose because you've just exploded their motivation because of a poor choice of words and the way in which you've expressed something along the way. So the things that motivate people and stuff like the thinking of a CEO in decision making. How it is that you gather the strategic thinking necessary to continue to make decisions and push the boundaries to enable you to be successful and not just allow things to wash over. So it's almost a strange contrast. I've just explained to you how my career and working life has just washed over itself, and I've just taken the opportunities that present. But I teach something different about what people should do to be able to grab the opportunities and create the relationships that it's about, something like that. So I think that's about what I was planning on saying. I'm happy to stop talking now and allow you to ask any questions if you'd like.
Yeah, awesome. So I don't know if you're still sharing the screen or if you want to stop share.
we
And
could probably do that.
We can open it up for some Q&A. So what questions do y'all have for Greg?
Yeah, actually, Greg, you just mentioned a lot about government in the in your first page. So, are you working for the government agency, or they hire you as consultant to train their executives?
Yeah, previously I worked exclusively for government. For the last 10 years or so, no, it's a combination of some government work being brought in as a contractor and working for small and medium-sized businesses.
Oh, the government have a contract with you to train the SME business owners?
Not exactly.
Right.
It's a third-party hire. So I'm working for another company as their expert to be able to train government officials, and I've worked for state governments as well, doing other types of tasks from time to time.
Okay. Understood. Yeah, but because in the first place, I thought you were working for the government.
Well, I mean, I'm perfectly comfortable working in, particularly in Australian governments, of course. I know what the requirements are, and I've got a lot of experience in which includes a lot of mistakes, which I freely share in my discussions as well.
When you're working with the creating the succession programs, how long out do you typically recommend people do that before the succession actually happens?
Well, it's probably 3 years plus to do the proper preparation. Although I have just worked with one company over a period of about 6 months. I mean, that was what they wanted to do over a period of time. And how that's been accelerated is identifying a couple of early potential buyers as part of the process too. That's not settled by any means at the moment, but we've gone from here's an idea to having them in front of buyers in 6 months.
Gotcha. Okay.
But ideally, it's a much longer one. Another one I'm working with at the moment. We're talking about, well, let's do as much of the preparation work as we can over about 13 months, because I've got regular content that I can take them through that actually would take almost half of that time if we're meeting every fortnight. I'd take all of that time to go through all the content, all of the preparation stuff.
Okay, so the referral you just mentioned on your last the PPT, how do you like give your consultant service for them? Do they need to like give you the problem they want to solve, or the target they want to achieve? Yeah, do you need to communicate it in the first place?
So 3 or 4 principles, I suppose, is you call someone like me in, and someone like me can generate a lot of work for people. That's not my intention, and it's important that we select the types of things that we're going to focus on so that they're the most value for those individuals. I'm not one of those people who likes to be hounding people. So the accountability coach model. Well, it's fine to be try and hold people accountable, but I do it in a gentle way. I do it in a way that recognises the realities of what's happening when they're running businesses and the things that come up from time to time. I've got a couple of clients at the moment who've got 2 businesses, and so the 2 businesses run at different paces. And trying to help with one is interfered with by the activities of others, and so. We do sometimes change our appointment times. We do sometimes miss one and sort of come back, 2 weeks later again because they're simply not ready. So most importantly, I'm looking for their readiness, their pace, their commitment to a range of things. I can generate a whole stack of stuff that we should do, but what are we going to do? What are we committed to? And what are we going to work on together?
Okay. So what if they are not doing what you are, telling them to do or suggesting them to do?
There's two things I think I always say take into account here is, well, have we got the right goals? If we haven't got the right goals, then let's get the right goals. If we have got the right goals, well, what are the activities that we should be doing that actually support those goals? And maybe the activities need to change, or the pace of the activities needs to change, or they need to sort of come to grips with what they told me and what I'm trying to guide them through to be able to make the next steps through. Another example, another guy I'm working with at the moment, like he's all over the place. Every meeting's a new experience, and so I've got to ride that pathway between, let's keep bringing him back to the things he told me in the past. Are they still important? And let's make him gradually encouraging to be more accountable to himself and what he needs to do. Sometimes I just go and launch off and write an article and map out all of the things we've talked about, and then sort of say, here it is. This is stuff we've been talking about. Are you still on board with this? And sometimes I'll come back and say, yeah, that's exactly what I want. Okay, well, let's get back to doing it then. So
you need to motivate them once in a while, right?
Yeah. And I'm not their boss. I'm not the decision maker.
Okay.
I'm the person who actually brings them to the decisions, brings them to the risks, brings them to the challenges and the goals, and asks them to make the step.
Okay. So actually, another question is, how do you provide your service? Is it like in hours or in a period of time, something like that?
Most people I work with either on a fortnightly or a monthly basis.
Monthly.
But
How many hours per month?
So let's do with a fortnightly cycle one. So I'd normally have one long meeting and one short meeting. So the long meeting might be 60 to 90 minutes, and the short meeting might be 30 to 45 minutes. And I'd probably try and do the short meeting online or on phone. And depending on what stage we are in the development, I'll do the other one sort of face-to-face or online. That said, sometimes I break all those rules too. Like somebody I've just been working with over the last little while, we decided that they need a whole stack of stuff to be done in phase 2. So I set up a series of 2-hour meetings to be able to work them through the first phase before we're actually ready to start working on their problem and their solutions, because they've got 7 leaders with different opinions about what's important. And they need to be aligned first before we actually get ourselves marching down that path.
Okay. Understood. So not more than 135 minutes per month.
Well, it's not a matter of not more. I'm not a clock watcher either, So if I've got another appointment I need to rush off to, I make them more accountable. If I don't, I give them the time they need.
So do you think that is efficient? That I think it's pretty short period of time in a month. You mean like not more than 3 hours? The meeting.
Well, for some it's not. So clearly, the example I just gave you before, we decided 4 2-hour plus meetings in a short space of time to get things moving in the first instance. But I might run at the same time half day or full day training. I might run half day or full day workshops in part of the discussion to get through things. But I've never been one who thinks like the biggest list is the best answer. It's more a case of, you discuss the priorities, you shape the priorities. I often do a business model canvas and a critical alignment model, and it's not often, it's not rare to be able to then crystallize those sort of things down to a small number of activities, which are the really important drivers of what happens from that point on. That doesn't mean there aren't lots of things we need to do to service each of those. But the answer is not always create the biggest list, because that just overwhelms the client. I don't mind creating a big list to start off with, but we zero in on a small number of important things where you can do one activity and get multiple outcomes. They're the ones I look for to be able to sort of start things out.
Okay. Understood. So actually, according to your experience, so how many percentage of your clients, like the business owner or the executive level, what's the percentage that they will not, execute what you suggest them to do? Well,
probably let's go at it the other way. In 100% of cases, we won't do everything as agreed. But we will round them up in many cases and get back to the important situations from there. Of course, if you go into a meeting and you can't get agreement on what's important in the first instance, well, you don't have an engagement. I only want to work with people who actually want a result and want to be able to either arrive at that result themselves and be clear and we explore that, or work together so we arrive at that result. Because sometimes, in fact, in almost all cases, they can't articulate exactly what they're looking for. Only through work together do we reach agreement on exactly what they're looking for.
So probably time for, whatever your last burning question is that you have, now is the time to ask it as we begin to wrap this up. I want to make sure that, you asked all the questions, or you pick the last one that's most important to ask. I know for me, I wanted to ask, when it comes to like doing a BNI Connect or LinkedIn testimonial review, what are some keywords or phrases that you like to have in those?
Okay, be things like open communication, challenging questions, asks challenging questions, works towards agreement, builds a strategy that's agreed, that's time specific, that builds commitment and gets results. Motivating language and behaviour. They're all types of things that I aim for.
All right, that was my cue. Romeo.
Yeah, I think I'll leave the time to Kang Wei. Yeah,
okay.
He is silent as a pink elephant.
Kang Wei, your last question, if any.
No.
All right, cool.
You can't attract an answer unless you ask a question.
Yeah.
Romeo have helped me.
Yeah. Actually, I have my last question. I want to ask Greg, have you ever rejected any customer or clients? If so, why?
Well, I suppose sometimes they're rejected, not like, no, I refuse to work with you, that type of arrangement. But sometimes we've had a conversation and we just haven't nailed the common purpose. We haven't sort of seen it both seen it the same way, and we agree we're possibly not an ideal match to be able to work together, and that's okay.
Okay. Yeah. So you will have a conversation with him first and see if you have the consensus. If not, then just just leave each other alone.
Yeah, well, see, sometimes you're not just not right for each other. Like he's got a particular area of need, and I've actually referred some people off on the basis that I don't really want to do that type of work. and I don't really want to give that type of thing, or they can't. The truth is, they can't afford me to do that type of work for them. So there's no point giving them a ridiculous price that is way beyond they're looking for. I should find them to allocate them to someone else who actually will be interested in doing it for what their expectations are. So for some reason, I must have been something astray in my LinkedIn profile. I got 2 or 3 in a short space of time, people who came to me who were looking for someone to help them rewrite their CV and do some career coaching and that sort of stuff for them. Well, you know, I can do the career coaching, but I'm not interested in rewriting a CV or something like that. So I referred that off to a friend of mine. And I asked myself, and I asked them, what is it? What was on my LinkedIn profile that made you think that's what I wanted to do? You know, and they couldn't answer that question for me, but they had that for a little while. Anyway, that's gone away.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I think that's why there's no CV in your keywords. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Greg, for sharing.